What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? Thank you to Bleacher Report for having me on to talk Washington Commanders offseason 2024. What a week it was for the Washington Commanders. We named our head coach. It was not who we all expected it to be, but it's a hire that league circles and anyone within proximity of the NFL loves and applauds it. Dan Quinn is now the head coach of the Washington Commanders, and he'll be introduced to the media with Adam Peters today at Commanders Park at around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not only do we have a head coach, we now have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, as Cliff Kingsbury pulled the okey doke, pulled the rug from out from under the Las Vegas Raiders, and pulled out of his contract commitment with the Raiders to come be the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. Does that bring Caleb Williams to DC smoke? We're going to talk about that in just a second. But we also have a defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. Joe Witt Jr., secondary coach and defensive passing game coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, the favorite to supplant Dan Quinn as he moved on in Dallas. We just pulled the two top defensive guys from a constantly progressing and developing defense there in Dallas. It's a new day in DC, but we all know why you're here, and we all know what the largest remaining question about Washington's offseason is going to be. It's the age-long 30-year-old question we've been asking my entire life as a 32-year-old fan. Will Washington finally find its permanent fixture, its franchise quarterback? Will we finally have that transcendent talent that we will never need to go back to the shopping room? We will never need to add one to the shopping cart for the next 15 years or so. And I think this is the year to get one, out of all years to have one. So I think there are many options for Washington, and I'm 100% on the we're getting one at 2. We're getting one in the first round of the draft. But there are many ways we can go to skin a cat in this offseason. But let's start with draft. Like, there are 3 options. Washington can draft one high. They can stick with Sam Howell and develop him and see if they can get every bit out of him in the Cliff Kingsbury air raid offense, or we can go the veteran route. And the veteran route has 2 paths. It could be veteran starter for the short term to long term, or it can be veteran bridge quarterback while whatever rookie we draft sits and waits. But let's start with the sticking with Sam option. I'm not 100% against it, but I'm like 98% against it, because I'm all for when a new front office and coach comes in, they need to select their own quarterback. And Sam was never in a fair position to get the truest of fair shakes, because he was playing against a timer. There was a timer for his candidacy to be our quarterback, being that a previous ownership, coaching, front office regime is what selected him at 144th overall 2 years ago. So there was always a clock going against him. Secondly, while he did flash 21 touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, so 26 total touchdowns in his first campaign as a starter, but he led the league in turnovers, 21 interceptions, and Eric Bieniemy did not do him any favors. Behind a shaky offensive line, we had that boy dropping back 50 times a week. 50 dropbacks a week. He led the league in passing attempts for about 90% of the season. It didn't take to like the end of the season for EB to realize maybe I got this kid throwing the ball too much. But 7 consecutive bad performances stacked against each other in a year where you're kind of a lame duck quarterback, that's not going to be an advantageous path to becoming the long-term fixture at quarterback. So I don't think the stick with Sam option is going to be what we go with. We do have an offensive mind here, Cliff Kingsbury, who may be able to scheme it up for him. He's running an air raid offense. The premise of the air raid offense is to spread out the defense and find as many favorable one-on-one matchups as possible for you to deliver it. Cliff Kingsbury when he was at his time in Arizona, he definitely tweaked and altered that air raid to look more like a traditional NFL spread offense. So it did not look as gimmicky in college air raid as the bear raid Robert Griffin ran at Baylor or some of the ones we've seen at Texas Tech in college. It's not as gimmicky as you would think, but is Sam Howell the guy to run it? I think he can develop into a fine backup quarterback, and he can become a spot starter if need be. But I'm going the draft route for quarterback for Washington. So we can start talking about the Washington Commanders options in the 2024 NFL draft. And it starts with, before I do a very thorough investigation and break down Jaden Daniels and Drake May as prospects, as people, as humans, as students of the game, as lovers of the sport, I have to be told no by Chicago. I have to reach out to Chicago and see what it's going to cost and see if there's any interest garnered in Washington being able to move up to the top spot, because I think one quarterback is different than the rest of the crop of quarterbacks. There's tier one guy, tier two guys, and then there's the rest of the class. Tier one, undoubtedly, is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC, the pride of Gonzaga High School in DC. Caleb Williams is demonstrably better than the rest of the 2024 NFL draft class. He's special. He has that innate ability, feel, and instinct to know when pressure's coming, that he can avoid pressure. He can move and maneuver in the pocket. He knows it before it's coming. All guys don't have that instinct. This is not a beat up on Sam Howell episode, but Sam Howell has negative pocket awareness, negative innate instincts and feel for where pressure is coming. And a lot of the sacks this year happen to be on the quarterback. Caleb Williams is a magician in the pocket, and Caleb has elite arm talent. Not just arm strength, arm talent, and velocity. He can put the ball on trajectories and in places only 2 or 3 guys in the league can. I'm talking Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, Rodgers in his prime, in the list. There are throws that he can make. There are windows he can put the ball in off-platform angles in which his arm makes the throws that only the best of the best in the league can make. And if I'm Washington, what better to complete the rebuild of the new regime than the hometown kid? I know I don't care about the hometown aspect of it, because I've seen plenty of hometown players come and go and get ate alive in this DC market. But I believe in this prospect specifically. I have to be told no from Chicago. Chicago has to tell me hell no, or has to tell me a ridiculous price to move up one pick, because normally moving up from 2 to 1 would not cost you too much. But when a generational prospect is what you're moving up from 2 to 1 to receive, I believe there's going to be a bit of a Caleb Williams tax. So it's not going to be the normal price. It's going to cost a pretty penny, but I have to at least put that option out there, speak it into existence, and see what exactly they're looking for us to move up from 2 to 1. Because looking at it from Chicago's end, Chicago can probably still draft a quarterback. If they traded back one pick, they could get Jaden Daniels, or they can get Drake May to run Shane Waldron's offense. Or if they can say, we're going to run it back with Justin Fields and pick up his 5th-year option, they could say, let's give him Marvin Harrison Jr., the next generational tab talent in this draft, the best receiver talent to come out in quite some time. They're not going to miss out on the guy again like they did when they traded up for Mitch Trubisky and ignored drafting Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes in that draft. Let's say they take Caleb and they say, Washington, any team's calling? No, we found our guy. We're sticking with him. Mind your business. We're going to pick Caleb Williams at number 1. So then the question becomes Drake May versus Jaden Daniels. And I know when you hear college offense, when you hear air raid Cliff Kingsbury, your first thought is going to be Jaden Daniels. So let's talk about Jaden Daniels. And also, that shouldn't necessarily be the case. Drake May just played in an air raid offense in UNC this year. But Jaden Daniels, 6'3", just a shade under 6'4", hopefully around 205 pounds. The boy's built like a broomstick, but he has plenty enough arm power. But the guy's a dangerous weapon as a runner. And people are going to immediately start the Lamar Jackson comparisons. He ran for 1,200 yards this year to parlay with his 40-4 touchdown to interception ratio on his way to winning a Heisman Trophy. Washington fans having PTSD, they're going to say this is RG3 all over again. Because in 2012, Washington traded up to the second overall pick in the draft, and we didn't get the number one guy, but we got the number 1B guy, which was Robert Griffin to Andrew Luck's 1A. And Robert had this thing that Jaden kind of has where Robert could not protect himself. Robert refused to slide, and Robert took a plethora of dangerous hits because he always was fighting for yardage. As a slight built quarterback, you cannot take unnecessary hits. When you're an alien like Josh Allen or Cam Newton, you can take those unnecessary hits because you have the 240-pound girth to take that type of punishment. Jaden Daniels and RG3 are not built for that. But Jaden put together one of the greatest seasons in college football history. One of the knocks people are going to have is he has tremendous talent in LSU. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. are both slated to go in the top 20 of the draft. Neighbors in the top 10, actually. But you can't discount a guy's performance because he has talent around him. Because you can still be nasty with talent around you. Look at CJ Stroud at Ohio State. The guy played with like 5 first-round receivers. But look what he did with a little bit of talent in Texas, in Houston this year. He got Nico Collins and Tank Dell looking like the posse of the 80s down in Houston. Because elite talent transcends situation. But when put in the right situation, elite talent can get right to the shits. They can get right to producing greatness. And we saw that this year with CJ Stroud. In the flashes we saw of Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, it looked well. Both teams went to the playoffs right away. But I both think those are anomalies when it comes to building a franchise. It's not too often you're just jumping from worst to first and making the playoffs in your first year of building it. But Jaden Daniels definitely qualifies as a pick that should go top 3 in this draft. But my thing about Jaden is his arm equivalent a weapon as his legs, because me personally, my style, my flavor of quarterback is a quarterback that can run, that can escape, and possesses the ability to extend plays and maneuver in the pocket. But he does not need to have game-changing legs, because if you go back and look at it, there are not too many, if any, quarterbacks that have won a Lombardi trophy running around, running for 1,000 yards. Love Lamar Jackson. Love Michael Vick. There's a reason why their trophy case is not going to have a Lombardi in it, because in the playoffs, in situational football, teams are going to take away that running threat, and you have to be able to do it with your arm. Jaden Daniels has more than enough arm to do so, throws one of the prettiest fade and seam balls I've seen in quite some time. Can he consistently throw the ball over the middle? And can he win with his head and arm over his legs? Those are going to be the questions we have to have answered over these next couple months before the NFL draft starts on April 25th. But I like Jaden Daniels. But here's why I would lean to Drake May for Washington. So in the air raid offense, the offensive linemen, their splits are wider than a normal base. And that's to create throwing lanes for the quarterback. When you have a smaller quarterback, this matters because it gives them the room to see the throwing lanes to push the ball vertically down the field. With Drake May, you don't have to necessarily acquiesce to those short quarterback needs. Drake May is 6'5", 230 pounds, and he's probably going to run a faster 40 than Mahomes, Allen, and company. This is a 6'5", 230 quarterback, but he's not a statue. He's not a Jared Goff. He's not a Matt Ryan type. This boy can run. This is what my preference of quarterback looks like. A quarterback that can run and has the ability to escape and the ability to create with his leg, but does not need to. Drake May ran for 1,100 yards combined in the last 2 years, 16 rushing touchdowns. He has more than enough capabilities to also threaten you with his leg, but his number one tool is his arm. Did his accuracy waver this year? Absolutely. And his touchdowns dipped from 38 to 24. Part of it is due to changing offensive coordinators, to having his number one target not getting him till the middle of the season, and Tez Walker. But I'm taking my crapshoot. If we can't get Caleb, I'm taking my roll of the dice on a 21-year-old, 6'5", 230-pound quarterback with all the arm in the world. He makes the arm angle throw. He threw a touchdown with his damn left hand at one point this year. He has a lot of baller to him, but he also has a lot of YOLO. He has a lot of Josh Allen YOLO hero prayer ball to him. He forces it when it's not there. He tries to fit it in situations where he does not need to fit it. He has the arm arrogance where he feels like he can put the ball anywhere on the field. He has a true gunslinger mentality where he may end up having games where he throws 4 picks, but he's going to throw you back into it because he's going to make plays. I think he has more Josh Allen and Phillip Rivers to his game than Justin Herbert, because I know the automatic typecasted archetype of Drake May is Justin Herbert, because he's tall, slender, wears the number 10, and has a big arm. So they immediately say Justin Herbert. I don't think he has quite Justin Herbert arm strength, but I think some type of hybrid of Phillip Rivers and Josh Allen is the ceiling for Drake May. And I think for Jaden Daniels, I don't think necessarily it's Lamar, because I think he's a more natural passer than Lamar Jackson, but he does give you that type of game-changing ability. But the lazy answer here is I'll take Jaden, I'll take Drake, and if we have a chance, I would obviously take Caleb before all of these guys. I think Caleb is demonstrably better than the rest of the class. And I think Drake May and Jaden Daniels' ceiling is significantly higher than the rest of the 2024 QB class. And let's speak of the rest of the class while we're here. Bo Nix and Michael Penix, both the grandfathers of college football. They both started their college careers in 2018. It is now 2024, 6 years later. So we got 6-year starters. Cross Penix off the draft board completely for Washington. I'm not drafting a 24-year-old who had 4 season-ending injuries. He tore the same ACL twice and banged up his shoulder a couple times. Take that completely off the board for Washington. Bo Nix, solid quarterback. I see him being a Case Keenum type. I see him being a long-term emergency spot starter and backup quarterback, but he has good touch and accuracy. Red flag on both guys that Spencer Rattler of South Carolina whooped both of their asses in Mobile. Spencer Rattler was the clear-cut best quarterback Senior Bowl week in Mobile. That is a large indictment on Bo Nix and Michael Penix. And as a 24-year-old, 6-year starter in college, you should be a finished product right now. You should be plug and play, ready to lead a team and not look rusty doing so right now as a 24-year-old quarterback. And both of those guys struggled to outshine Spencer Rattler. So it's a no for me for those guys. Then there's a guy like Pratt, Michael Pratt from Tulane. Give me the veteran plus Sam Howell route. So then we have to move to veteran quarterback options for this team. I have no interest in this, but Adam Peters and Dan Quinn may say, maybe we take a guy, but we also sign a bridge quarterback. Do we bring back Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year? Do we bring him back under the guise of bridge starter? You're going to start until our young boys ready? Or do we go out and, dare I say, drop the bag and bring Kirk back? Go bring Russell Wilson in. Do we trade for Justin Fields? I have no interest in rinsed Russell Wilson. I think he's best suited to go to Pittsburgh or Atlanta. I think Pittsburgh is the odds-on favorite for Russell Wilson because they already have a great coach and they have a playoff caliber roster day one, a team that never has a losing season. They're already built and they have weapons for days. They're built for Russell Wilson. Scratch him off the list. I don't think Kirk Cousins is coming back to Washington. I actually think he stays in Minnesota. I think they get a deal done to keep him or goes to Atlanta. But the big option for Atlanta would be Justin Fields. He's from Kennesaw, Georgia, and he fits with that offense and the scheme that they have there. But I don't think I would trade for Justin Fields. I wouldn't hate it, but he's not as developed a passer as I'd want here, especially trading compensation for. 3 years into his career, we're still seeing him miss routine and layup throws. I don't want a quarterback that can't hit the routine throws. I've seen enough of that here. I am a passer first guy. That's my style of quarterback. Legs and mobility, it's great to have as a plus. Mahomes has plenty of escapability. He changes games with his legs with not having to force it. You never see him unnecessarily take hits. Josh Allen takes some of those, but he's 6'5", 245 pounds, so he can take the unnecessary hits. I don't think the veteran quarterback route is the way we go. But the top names on the list, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, a guy like Jacoby Brissett, Justin Fields, and dare I say, if he becomes available, a Ryan Tannehill type. Those are the crop of veteran quarterbacks available in the 2024 offseason. I think the only option here to start this build off for Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and company is to draft a quarterback with the second overall pick or trade up one spot and get the belle of the ball, the generational talent, the pride of DC, Caleb Williams. And while we talk about Caleb, understand that a lot of the discourse, the disdain, and the negative remarks you hear about the guy, a lot of it's coming from because his father is speaking a lot in the media. Caleb has one of those pageant dads, the LeVar Ball type, where his father has a little bit of what we call main character syndrome. So, and also he has a very small circle, a very small entourage. Caleb Williams' enterprise is pretty much a family and close-knit thing. So everything you hear out of his camp is coming from his father. Caleb has not uttered any of these words. I want ownership stake in a team. I won't play for Chicago, yada, yada, yada. This is his father. And for whatever reason, during draft season, everybody keeps putting a microphone to Caleb Williams' father's face. Everyone keeps getting tidbits. Everyone keeps getting sound bites from Caleb Williams' father. Mr. Williams, I say this respectfully. Stop blocking your son's blessings. There are already narratives being touted about your son for things that don't even represent his character. I know people that know the Williams family, and they say Caleb lives and breathes football. He's a film junkie. He's a student of the game. He loves everything about the sport, and he would never cheat the sport. Also, he loves to win. He hates to lose. I don't care that my quarterback's crying after a loss. Wouldn't you rather him be disoriented and flustered after a loss than being nonchalant and shrugging it off like, so what? Who cares? God rest his soul. I remember Haskins, after we lost to the Ravens, going to the locker room with an ear-to-ear Kodak smile because he had his first 300-yard game. Despite the fact that we lost, the guy was happy because he was statistically satisfied with his own performance. That is what I do not want in a quarterback. I want a quarterback who needs to win as bad as he needs to breathe. I need a quarterback who hates the taste of defeat more than he loves the sweet taste of victory. I want that. No red flags on Caleb's end or my end. He paints his nails. So the hell what? It's 2024. It's a different generation. Masculinity is a little different than it used to be. Don't care. If you really think painted nails are a red flag about a quarterback, I don't want to have a football conversation with you. Those are usually the people who are fans of fandom and not fans of the actual sport of football. Have no idea how the X's and O's work, because those kind of conversations aren't real football conversations to me. But for Washington, it's Caleb, Jaden, Drake May. Stop the count. Stop the count at that point. I don't want a veteran. I don't even want to sign a veteran. Your backup quarterback is making less than $1 million a year, and his name is Sam Howell, number 14. And if need be, if he got to start till the rookie gets ready, or if he has to come in and spot start for whatever reason, the rookie gets banged up, we're resting star, for any reason, you have a guy that's proven he can start games in the NFL. Is he going to be elite? Probably not. But we have a guy that proved over a 17, 18 starting sequence that if he's called upon, he can do it. Why spend $10 million of our $80 million league leading salary cap number on a backup quarterback when you have one on the roster that you drafted in the 5th round 2 years ago, making $1 million or less a season? It's not feasible to me for Washington to pay for a backup quarterback. Sam Howell is your long-term backup. Develop him, put him behind his best friend Drake May, or put him behind Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams. Should even let them duke it out if they need to. But I'm here for it. I'm here for a youth infusion in DC, and I'm here for whatever Cliff Kingsbury's vision of his air raid offense in DC. I'm excited to see what plays out over these next couple months. And me, like many other folks, I'm sure our minds will change dramatically a bunch of times before April 25th, before round 1 of the NFL draft starts. But right now, I have it pegged in this order for Washington. Number 1, Caleb Williams. You have to be told no by Chicago that he's off the board. He's ours. Start looking at the other guys. Number 2A, Drake May. And people are going to say, wouldn't that be weird putting Sam Howell's best friend on the roster? No, I think that's going to be a cohesive ass QB room. 2 best friends, 2 guys that roomed in college together, 2 guys that travel and work out together in the offseason. That's a great QB room. I don't know if you pay attention, but the best teams in the league have a very close-knit QB room. These guys vacation together. These guys go out on dates with their wives together. They go to dinner all the time. They host things together. A great cohesive QB room is advantageous to success in Washington. So 1, Caleb Williams, large gap. 2A, Drake May. 2B, Jaden Daniels. End of list. Those are the only 3 quarterbacks I want in consideration for Washington this year. I do not want Justin Fields from the Chicago Bears. Let somebody else have those damaged goods. Justin Fields has not thrown for 3,000 yards in a season yet, 3 years in. Justin Fields has not thrown for 20 touchdowns in a season yet. Justin Fields still struggles to hit wide open crossers, get past his first read, and make routine layup throws. While he does have special running ability is not enough for this guy. I like a quarterback that can run. I prefer a quarterback that beats you with his arm and his brain, but has the capabilities of using his leg. So we have to figure out with Jaden Daniels, is his arm equivalent of a weapon to his legs? Because if his legs are the main weapon, I'm out. I'll take him, but I'm out. I want the product that wins Super Bowls in this league. And guys that win with their right arm, not discriminating against left-handed quarterbacks, but you don't really see left-handed quarterbacks succeed in this league. But that's going to do it for my stream today. Thank y'all for pulling up, and thank you to Bleacher Report for having me on to speak Washington QB Quandary 2024. Washington introduces their head coach today at 2:30 p.m. EST, and Washington hired offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. as they fill out their staff and move forward to the next part of the NFL offseason. Combine in a few weeks, NFL league year in about a month from now. the offseason is off to a dramatic start in Washington, and there will be plenty more to discuss. In the meantime, I am Rio Robinson. You can find my work on YouTube under Rio Robinson, Rambling with Rio. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Out.